IS matchup and an elimination game as well. Foreign and Sponge, you guys are joining on the desk. So, Gambit so far, we've seen a good Gambit, we've seen an underwhelming Gambit, and we've seen kind of the typical stuff we see from Vega with a player like Chopper dropping off quite a bit, which has hindered them in some of them games where actually they could have closed it out, right? Especially the NRG one at the first start.
If they don't play Inferno, Chopper is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we've identified, and we had
map.
Yeah, I forgot what we named it, but we came up with some kind of name for it because we're talking about like an impotence of players on certain maps where they just go missing, right? So Chopper definitely on Inferno, at least in the matches recently, has not been really there for the squad. What I find most intriguing about this head-to-head is these guys, considering they're from the same region, very rarely play each other, right? And that is unusual, and that's probably more so because we don't see Vega at the bigger tournaments. We just see them more at the majors as opposed to, you know, coming to tournaments like this. But now they have an opportunity, and you just pull that thread a little bit further. Hobbit has elected to put himself on the bench of this Gambit team. Then they did well at ESL1 New York, so then now he's staying with them for now. This is at least from the outside looking in. This is how it appears. If they lose here, wouldn't Vega be one of the teams up for one of potential moves for him? I know that he's spoken about going anywhere.
Depends if he likes money.
That's true.
Some of us do. And no, that's one of the problems always in the regions, you know, is if you think of the old days of CS, you do it like that. You go by the team, you go to what the potential is. The problem with a lot of moves, it's the same reason why the whole Woxic to Space Soldiers thing to me never made sense. Because like, why would he go and make, I won't say the amount, but it's a very low amount of money and then never be able to attend tournaments. So I get what you mean. In the server, there's a logic to it, actually. Yeah, in fact, funnily enough, he would be a player, if I try and spitball it now, could make them a much better team. He would be a very stabilizing force. He wouldn't be that like outrageously like inconsistent player, but yeah, at the moment, that's one of the reasons I think he's still in the Gambit lineup. I don't think it's that they did great and they're just like seeing if it's still going. I think no one's trying to buy him at the moment. He's saying, I'm available, you know, no one's bought him yet, and so he doesn't have anywhere to go. Miz will stay in the shop window and keep doing it. Gambit needs a player. They don't know who they're going to get. So at the moment, it's just kind of like a happy set of circumstances that are currently work.
Yeah,
maybe.
but I think the strange thing with it is the last event, the ESL1 New York, it was like this is probably our last hurrah. We're going to play Lusa.
Yes.
We're still going to give it up. We're going to give it. Hope it's like I'm going to do my best here because I can get to a better team at this point. Then they did it right, and it's like exactly like you're saying. No one's come knocking. No one said, "Hey, dog, you know, you want to come join our team? You want to come over to America or whatever?" Like nothing like that's happened. So now it's like, well, if I'm stuck here, are these guys resenting the fact that I wanted to leave? There's all those like inter-team politics that could be going on. I think that he pulled the trigger too quickly. I think they should have just stuck it out, seen what Blade could bring to this scenario, see if he could actually shape the team, because all the pieces are there, right? All the pieces are definitely there.
That's the worst part of the story, though, is that it seems cool because they had a one-off result. That's cool if you're a team that is really loose and you're just a bunch of star players. If you bring Blade in as a coach, and you've been waiting so many years to get a coach like that, to get someone like Blade out of Flipside, take away the negative that he's not a very good fragger, and actually see his influence, you don't get to see his influence. He was only here briefly for a couple of events. Now he's working with a temporary lineup, so you can't really put too much stuff in there. Like, you don't know who the next guy is. He's probably not going to play like Hobbit, to be fair. So I feel like this is the problem now. I agree. The ESL1 run, that was a really cool storyline, great way to go out. But now you are outstaying your welcome a little bit, because not least you're not letting them go along the trajectory of where you're going to go as a team. It's time to start actually putting something down and making a system for the future.
When I was speaking to Hobbit, one of the things he did mention was that actually the team chemistry, the friendship is still there, which is kind of the holding factor. And he just wants to move elsewhere. I guess at least he can shine a little bit further. Now, one of the things when I spoke to Alex yesterday, the manager of Vega, the thing that he brought up was actually that the thing with Vega, even when they changed the previous two players, right, when Mir went and Kashinda, they basically, it was kind of like we needed to make a change more than we wanted to, because they tried to stick together as this, like, they're focusing more on the, we are a team of friends, we're together. It's a very, like, kind of happy place. But we know that doesn't work when it comes to Counter-Strike, right? You've got to put it up on the server as well.
Look, you obviously need elements of both because of how intimate this is, and we don't actually use the bench probably correctly yet in Counter-Strike, like we will, I assume, in 5 to 10 years' time or whatever the time period is. So you definitely need to make sure everybody is relatively cohesive, or you need to be at least a player who can what am I trying to say?
Compartmentalize.
That's the one I'm looking for, Duncan. Thank you very much. So that you can still be friendly with people, even if you hate the guy you sit next to, right? Some of us are sociopaths and can do that. Some of us aren't. But look, I think that this matchup, if we look at the context right now, we take those factors out of this. The way that Gambit approach the game is color by numbers, right? They take each step at a time, they'll do their defaults, and then they'll do whatever is the best call that I guess Blade has prepped them with. Whereas Vega, they do play, obviously, the chaotic style of CS, and on maps where they aren't able to get away with plays, we've seen how much that hinders them. On Inferno, exactly, you can see this 13% win rate.
It's the same win rate Gambit actually had. They both appalling on it.
It's not fantastic by any means, is it? But you can see they obviously haven't played a lot of maps here. Dust2 only once, Kesh only once, and this is in the last 3 months. So there isn't a huge sample size to go off of. I think that this game right here, it's hard to, because it's two different styles in my mind clashing, right? It's hard to see like the Vega being able to break the more passive CT styles of Gambit. Like that's where my mind is at immediately, and I'm just trying to think what map would that be possible on. A map like Kesh, for example, they could get away with being very sporadic, very pushy on the CT sides. On the T side, you can run faster rounds. And if it gets to a map like that, I would probably start looking at Vega taking this one over Gambit. But right now, maybe Mirage, but Gambit are definitely not going to be playing Mirage.
That's the ban, yeah. So the joke there is, even if this is a best of 3, they're not getting Mirage, which is obviously the main win condition for the guys from Vega. So that used to work for them in the past because everyone loved a bit of the old Mirage. But
this one's nice and quick. Oh, it's not Kesh.
Okay.
Maybe we could see that one come on in.
Train or Inferno.
Train, both teams have been relatively proficient on Train.
It's going to be Train then, yes.
We did see a very good game yesterday, or at least a very good first half out of Gambit yesterday, with Adren being the star in that, and there it is. Unfortunately, they really tapered off, and North were able to come back into it.
Yeah.
Even after losing both pistols, super late round decision making, Vega aren't going to play that same style.
Now, the thing here when I look at Train is just Gambit yesterday, right? We saw Adren have an amazing T side, comes on CT side, wasn't hardly picking up any kills, just literally vanished from the server. Now, we spoke about Chopper not being so good at Inferno. This is especially a map that maybe he'll be able to come into. But both Hutji and JR, they've been playing very well across the board. So if you can bring Chopper into that as well, could they just simply outfrag and outplay Gambit at that point?
The problem with Vega is people only remember the big wins they have. So they actually always tout them as this like super skilled squad and they're like so aggressive. It's like they're not actually that crazy because otherwise they'd have more wins. It wouldn't be upsets anymore, would it? It'd be legit. They'd just be one of the best teams in the world. So I actually think the firepower's a little bit overblown for Vega Squadron. When it works, great. That looks good. I would say the skill parity's pretty even between the two teams. I certainly think some of the Gambit players haven't been in form for quite a long while, so it makes you feel like they're in a depressed state in terms of raw skill. But I think the map's the great equalizer here for me. Like, I think this has been a map that has always suited the Gambit guys. So I think if you want to go with the cheeky little bet on this one, like actually those are probably like reasonable odds. In fact, you've probably been a little bit too much edged towards Gambit there. So maybe if you're doing the loop bet, I would say actually this might be a cheeky one to do on Vega because they've got a chance here. They've got a puncher's chance. Those are pretty good odds if you wanted to go for it as well. Like in theory, they should definitely be losing this game based on those odds.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that when you look at Gambit and a map that kind of suits, this is the thing I always keep talking about. This is the way that at least I look at their approach on the CT side. It can be done from very far back, whereas a lot of teams really have to get up close and personal and pop dog, get into team mid all the time and make sure that you can't get all those choke points. Gambit just have this really good ability to let you take map territory and then shut you down while you're in limbo. And that's something that didn't work for them yesterday against North. That was where they were in 4v2 situations with like 10, 12 seconds left and just got absolutely obliterated by Kirby and co. And that was very unusual. You don't normally see that happen from Gambit. And that's why I was saying that I can't see a playstyle of Vegas working in the same way because they're going to try and get things done a lot earlier in rounds. I can't see them leaving a round or at least an Ivy push with 3 guys like North did until the last 15 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I just can't see it. It just feels like a whole different world. So immediately leaning towards Gambit I just think they're better on this map. I just think they have a better approach. I agree with Duncan in terms of firepower. If you go man for man, it's very even, I think.
Yeah.
And there's even, I think, a pretty solid stylish clash here because you think of the Gambit players. I think one of their flaws when they lost to Zeus as an in-game leader is the players, naturally, many of them are pretty passive players. Like, they're not people who want to play like extremely aggressively, take aim duels. They'd rather play off angles. And so as a result, you contrast that with the Vega Squadron style. Vega needs to map for that to work. You know, it's not just about like the strength of your players. It's about if you put them on a certain map. That's why if you put them onto a map like an Overpass, I think they'd just die instantly. They'd have a really hard time. So I think for Gambit, this is an ideal map. It's a map that not a lot of people play at the moment as well. So as you saw, you're not getting kind of much like official play time on it. It's just whatever's going on in scrims. And it's always been a comfort map for the Gambit guys, including Hobbit.
Now we speak about Mir obviously being on the lineup and not getting kind of the positions he would have ideally wanted within this team.
Yeah.
Do you think with Blade coming in and maybe as we get deeper with Blade that can kind of change?
It depends on if Hobbit stays or if Hobbit goes. I think they can definitely... The thing is, they put Dozier in a lot of positions that I would probably put Mir in because I know that he will anchor it and get a lot of kills there, whereas Dozier will anchor it and he will get one and do his job. So it depends, right? Do you want to get the most out of Mir, or do you just want to use Dozier in a position where he is going to do his job and maybe try and teach Mir to become more of a flexible player? I think that's a better option to teach Mir because he is younger and there is more growth for him. But we forget about this. We need to highlight this. The Vega guys, Mir left them. Yeah. Mir's gone. There's a bit of bad blood here in the water, you know, the sharks, the swimming.
The rivalry.
Yeah. Well, it's probably not that bad. They probably all still love each other. But
it was quite a funny thing, actually, because when you talk to them, they both say every time when it's a CIS matchup, it's like, oh, we don't want to eliminate the other team. But it's like, this happens so regularly now. It's not about the friendship side of things. It's about actually coming out on top, especially when it's an elimination map.
It's weird on home soil as well, right?
Yeah.
It's
never understood that logic myself, personally. It's like if something bad has to happen, I wouldn't want something bad to happen to my mate. What's that? The other option's me. Oh, sorry, mate. Oh, it's gonna be real hard for you, but I'll be there for you. So, I'll buy you the first drink at the bar. See you, mate.
We did see yesterday, Gambit was still running that very similar default on the T side. The late Ivy plays by Dozier was punished a little bit, but they were still able to win 4-on-5 situations. So that was something I said to look out for that North could use to win. Knife will be going in the favor of Vega, so I assume they will decide to start on the CT side. It would make the most sense. But this is where I see them having maybe more trouble.
Yeah, same. Just because of how well Gambit played their T side last time against North, and Adrem was just kind of balling out every time, wasn't he?
They're grinders, though, right? Vega are a team that can grind even with the lowest utility and economy and all that going on. They're still able to string something together. JR will get like a 3-kill with the ore. It just seems to always happen. These miracle rounds happen more often than not for these guys. So. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think we're going to get a blowout here, but I have to lean towards Gambit just because I think that they're more well-prepared fundamentally, right? And they should be able to mitigate any... This isn't a map where these guys can just run around. You actually have to create space. You have to use utility to take areas. It's not just, I can run out and pop heads. It's not as simple as that.
And that's one of the things we criticize Vega about most, right? The lack of using all the utility all the time, the lack of kind of setting up just more than just a few defaults. So what is it that Vega would need to kind of take that next step here? Because this has been kind of the constant theme over and over again with this team.
Well, that's the problem with having a core that lasts a long, long time and you don't make fundamental changes in it. Is they think this is the correct way to play. Like they're not accidentally doing this stuff. They are choosing. They want to play this way. They don't want to play a heavy utility game, play a slow game. That might not suit their style. They might actually be worse at it for all you know. And in fact, it's an example I think of where you overall might gradually be a better team, but in the short term, I think you'd get way less upsets. So you wouldn't get the feedback that's telling you it's working. So personally, I think Vega just does Vega. I think they get something out of it. They have some cool, exciting upsets. They're not a top team, and I don't think they've really got the aspirations to be one right now. As you saw there, they never get to go to the big tournaments generally anyway. Yeah. So they do what they do. They're a nice outside shot every now and then. In this kind of a game here, though, I think this is a good example of where a team like Gambit, say whatever you will about them, they've got a nice style to play against Vega, I think. This is the right map to play against them. They've got the experience. There's no reason to really be intimidated. Like everyone who's from FaZe Clan or whatever, who is Vega? Who are these guys? You know who these players are. There's no real surprise factor there. If you Gambit, you go in the server, you just play out the game, and you expect that you are going to grind out a gritty sort of 16-12 win.
I was about to say that. So you expect this to be kind of the closer game between the two teams just because of the nature of it.
Gambit can also just blow nobody out anyway. So
yeah, they're not great at having those huge wins. Okay. They make a lot of mistakes.
So Sponge, you already said you're going with Gambit. Duncan, you're going the same. And I will, as always, go against Gambit because I'm not going to be mugged off at all by Adren anymore. He hates me enough as it is. And Harry and Vendetta, it's time for you guys to get into the game.
Yeah, thank you very much for that one, James. I'm excited. We got some fun storylines here. We got some fun stuff to talk about, Halvor. But before we do any of that, I'm curious. We've already heard what the analysts are thinking. How do you see this game panning out?
I'm leaning in the same direction as we saw Duncan and Chad really go towards, and just fundamentally, Gambit should be better set for victory here. The map plays in their favor in terms of what they can bring on an average day. Vega thrive more in a chaotic environment. That is not something Train leads itself too well to, in my opinion. I think there's much more room for Gambit to be able to work around that.
So as we can see, the favorites as well, as picked by the wonderful people over in Twitch. That's going to be Gambit there as well. Wonderful people in Twitch, they're right about most things. You know, the internet is usually
rarely
right.
seen them wrong, right?
So you know that's always good. But you know, most people kind of leaning the way of Gambit. Then, in your opinion, what needs to happen for Vega if they want to pick the win up here?
I mean, I think it's a given that JR needs to have similar impact as to what he has had early on. He was exceptional, even in the games that he lost, finding opening, winning out those duels. We actually need to see Chopper do something for the first time in this tournament, because I don't think you can count for either Crush, Tony Black, or Hoochie to consistently deliver you a good enough performance to go up against the likes of Gambit. I think Gambit have so many more strings to play off of. In that team, you have a potential of 5 players who can, really do a significant amount of damage. And Mir playing against his gold teammates, he's definitely going to be keen on doing well for himself.
Well, going to be frags left and right down here towards maybe Vega trying to hold on to this A bomb site. There is a man down in Pop. That's going to be Hobbit, but Hoochie chiming in with that kill. Just Hobbit left alive. Is Tony Black able to go ahead and find his ex-teammate in the form of Mir? Hobbit on this very, very lengthy flank. All the way back through main. You can see both Hoochie and Tony going to be keeping their eye on Pop. The bomb's down and out in the open, but Hobbit might be able to isolate this 1v1. He did spot Tony Black.
Actually moving pretty far apart from each other. Oh, not going to matter there as Tony wins out the duel, but that could have been a little bit iffy as well. With Hoochie moving so far away from Tony, Hobbit can very easily get a one duel versus Tony, and Hoochie's still not going to be in the vicinity to actually deny Hobbit from picking up the bomb at any given point. So, not really sure. I'm too big of a fan of that, but still works out for them. They do get the pistol round they need, and both these sides have actually had a bit of a trend of being quite a bit stronger actually on their T side on train. Rather than the CT side. So we'll see how that pans out as the game chugs along. We do see like 2 SMGs being picked up on the side of Vega. Scout onto JR. Makes sense considering he wants to get in on that op action as quickly as possible. And Tech9s galore on the side of Gambit. They've read the patch notes and apparently they've figured out something that potentially others haven't. Let's see how this works out for them. Smokes go in. And that doesn't work, but on the wrong players. Instead, he's going to find Tony Black eventually. Bomb is about to go down as well. So, in a sense, a successful round for Gambit as they get mowed down by Hoochie and Tony Black. Quick rotations coming in from Vega there. They were well equipped to deal with that push. And, I mean, from the patch has obviously hit very recently, and we haven't seen too many changes of that, coming into effect up to this point. Obviously, they are playing on a bit of a modified, updated version where the money changes has not been implemented to the patch that they're playing on, but the changes made to the pistols and the ZZ and the Tech-9, in addition to the cost reduction of the AUG and Krieg, is very much so. But it's going to be interesting to see how many teams actually jump on that. Gambit being the first team that I've seen at least so far to really get on that Tech-9 hype. But I guess judging from the numbers, I mean, you had Sloth Squadron usually breaks down these kind of the number game whenever we see weapon challenges or weapon changes. It still suffers from some of the same issues it had previously as well. It's not necessarily the most accurate one, and the run and gun method that we all know the Tech-9 for is not necessarily backed by any means. Hobbit's able to find a couple of shots onto Crush through the smoke, so it kind of equalizes the damage he's been dealt initially. Same can't be said for Adran, who's down to 18 HP.
Just be a shot for Vega, rather, to keep this very, very clean and pick themselves up a third. You are going to be running up against these Deagles, obviously, which is never going to be too easy. But we might as well kind of touch on some of this now, and that's going to be this battle between Mir and his old teammates. That's going to be one of the most interesting things to see this develop, of course. You know, he was brought in to Gambit, let go from Vega, spoke to, you know, one of the managers behind the Vega Squadron guys, and he was kind of saying it was a very mutual decision. You know, there's actually a very decent relationship between the Gambit team and the Vega Squadron guys. They all get along. So,
no animosity.
Yeah.
Like to see that.
Tell you what, they might have respect outside of the server. The second you get inside, that goes out the window. And Hoochie going to get himself one onto Mir. Actually, he's just lighting up the scoreboard, looking to try and save this round, because it has come a lot closer than Vega would have liked. There's only 5 seconds left, though, so the bomb doesn't go down. Tony Black just has to hide. Oh my goodness, he goes pushing in. He didn't need to take that fight. The bomb wasn't going to go down in time, so he's just given up this round. And somehow Vega, they're going to go ahead and, you know, give this round to Gambit.
Yeah. Yeah. You could just see the smile on Mo's face, actually, as the round was over. I think he was surprised like to find...
It was going to be a disaster, right? Because the bomb wasn't going to go down. If Tony Black had just hid, which, you know, fair enough, maybe he anticipated they were going to go for the plant. But if he had just hid, they would have, you know, been alive with what? Like, carried the M4s forward, but that's all they would have really been able to take with them into that next round, because you don't get any money for staying alive after that timer ticks down.
So, in any case, it's an unnecessary risk to take if you're Vegas. The aggressive positioning. This is 3 players committed to this outer bomb site. Even though they get the 1-for-1 trade, Gambit know that there's been 3 players towards it. They're not going to pounce on this by any means. They're slowing things down. We saw this a lot versus North as well. They were not too keen on actually keeping that tempo very high. Just going about it slowly. Eventually just getting a chokehold on that inner bomb side. What we saw Doja a lot of the times playing that slow lurk over towards Ivy. Some, I guess, modifications to it would be with Adren pushing out into Ivy, no, into main. Crush. One at the duel versus Doja. Desperately wants the weapon to his name as well. Realizes that's probably going to be a little bit too much to ask for.
Yeah, and for me, over on this Vega side, we really need to see some commanding performances from the likes of Chopper and Crush, who have been kind of struggling with that consistency thus far. Now, 2-on-3, looking good for Vega. JR going to get caught out in the middle of the bomb site, and that is Mo to pick it up. So blink of an eye, it's Hoochie and Tony Black left up, but here in the back line, laying it down the pain is Hoochie. He's going to go out and find them both. So Vega instantly going to be stealing around back. They don't let that bomb go down either. Mo is somehow on $6,000. He's a bit mental like that, as is Doja. So the buy here can actually be pretty good from Gambit.
That was a bit surprising, though, for to see from Gambit that, I mean, Hoochie's already taken out Adren earlier on the round. We see it there on the replay. The fact that, yeah, they've smoked it off, and there's a chance Hoochie might have rotated around towards his teammate through white walls, but they just completely ignore the entirety of Pop Dog there, while planning open for it as well. So, a bit of mishaps from both sides. We saw Vega kind of throwing away that last round. This time around, it's a Gambit trying to do their best impression. Aggressive push from Chopper. He's going to get punished hard by Adren. Still one more player in Hoochie playing forward there towards his A main, but an advantage going the way of Gambit. Mir finally finding some success yesterday versus North. He was not the most involved player. Definitely wanted to do better versus his former teammates. Instead of Vega looking to extend their lead, it's Gambit with the 2-man advantage. Still a couple of deagles, and well, Hoochie's feeling it right now. 11th kill of the game. Oh, and look at this. The AUG being put into use here by JR. Not an AWP this time around, but it does have a scope. Might be all he needs as he gets executed by Hobbit. I feel like that's going to be something that we see quite a bit. People picking up these new weapons, obviously with the reduced price point, and us getting excited about it, only to be heavily disappointed that it does absolutely nothing.
I just think so, like the AUG is notably the worst out of the two. But look at Crush, speaking of new weapons, he's in the backline with that brand new MP5, and he's wreaking havoc. It's Hoochie versus Mir. Ex-teammates turned on one another here, and 5 HP. Hoochie up in the heavens. He's going to go ahead and start to make his way downtown. Spots out Mir, and despite being on 5 HP, despite them knowing where he is, he's going to go ahead and win it out once again. Hoochie is, I I don't know what it is about him. They just seem to forget what this man's been doing and where he is. You know, they'll spot him, they know where he is, and then they look away.
And he's still there.
There's like a plot of something with the storyline like that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there is. Someone else can kind of write that joke for me. Here we go. Vega, we're going to go ahead and see them move up early on to that 4-1 scoreline. Tactical pause called in already from this Gambit T side. Certainly not getting off to the starts that they would have liked. And, Hoochie, as you say, just on a tear right now. 12-1, 200 ADR, by the way.
He's pretty much the only reason Vega are winning rounds a lot of the time here now. It's pretty ridiculous. And, I mean, you have to consider the fact that Gambit were sitting at a 5v3 for the better part of that round, not taking significant damage on either Adren or Mir to find the 2 first frags. It's a massively wasted opportunity on there, and they should have been they should have had 2 more rounds to their name at this point than what they're currently sitting at. So it's Vega getting further ahead, and Gambit being sent back to an eco.
It's been a while since we've seen Tech9s in the server, but today that all changed, obviously, with the new update coming on in. We're going to be donning it for Gambit over here toward B. Now, the one thing for Vega, important to realize, is Hoochie, fantastic right now. You have to wonder how long he can keep that up for. So, do you still need to see the rest of the squad come to life behind him? Flash rains on the floor. This is an awkward fight, but somehow Tony Black is still up and alive. They're going to go ahead and lose Adren out towards A. This bomb actually not pushed in just yet, so the bomb plant won't come through for Gambit. It is going to be on the back of Hobbit, and he sits.
Sits very long. I'm not really sure what the intention behind that is. This is also like one of the things that confuses me with Gambit. You could tell that they have an idea that they want to get a bomb plant down in. Haven't invested a lot. Obviously, outside of outright winning the round, the best case scenario for you is to get a bomb plant down. But Hobbit, instead of just kind of risking life and limb, decides to hang out to see if he can get a frag or 2. And there's not enough of an upside to excuse that kind of a decision. There you have it, though. 5 rounds for Vega. They're already set to have a pretty decent CT half here. I have to consider as well, like yesterday versus North, Gambit were pretty much in the run of things every time. Every time North managed to grab one back, they would get reset. Gambit were just always in charge. This time it's very much a different story. Remains to be seen if they're actually going to be able to combat back from this. Well, gets caught out the second he dumps off Doja. Maybe would have been able to find a positive trade, but that's not going to be the case. Heavy commitment, though, from Vega, but they do get away with the man advantage. And Hobbit goes down to Tony Black, loses the duel. And bombs still drop down over towards T-spawn, so you can start to put into question what Gambit have actually expected to get out of this round.
Yeah, just under a minute left on the clock, but it's Adren that we need to be keeping an eye on here. He hasn't had the best of starts, 1 and 6 right now, but we know, we've seen time and time again that this man has so much in the tank, so much potential to find these to find these opportunities, the ways into these rounds that he should never be allowed to find. Currently going to be sitting up in the heavens. JR and Crush inside of B. Chopper waiting down towards Ivy. The bomb has been retrieved and is on the back of Mir, and no one right now keeping an eye on this A bomb site.
The really big thing here is that Mir plants in the spot. It's actually going to drop down and find the first one. That's going to drag Chopper over from Ivy. They're still going to get a bomb plant down that's favorable for them. The question is whether or not Mir can actually make it back towards pop area or something like that for an after plant. He's actually going to go into heavens here. That could still play out really nicely if he's not caught out, as he is. And now that leaves Adren in a rough spot. He's done it before, could do it again, but look at the utility as well left. Is he just actually giving up on this? It would seem as if he is. So not willing to take the risk. That should be a full defuse coming in from Chopper, and another round victory for Vegas Squadron. A little bit questionable for Adren to actually just not even attempt it at that point. I mean, fair enough. The percentage isn't going to be with you, but I mean, you're letting Vegas Squadron get quite a bit of CT rounds here, and statistically, they have been better on the T side whenever they've played train. So You can't really afford to give Vega too much wiggle room here.
Yeah, and, you know, I asked one of the Vega guys how he's feeling heading into this. He just laughed and said, "Wait and see." And you know,
There
like,
we go.
yeah, that was pretty like the most confident I've seen these guys kind of look heading into it. But JR going to be donning the AWP now for Vega. We know, you know, as we saw yesterday from his performance on Inferno, he can be an absolute beast with this AWP. Now, rifles across the board for Gambit. That's where I think, you know, they're going to get a bit hurt here. You don't have the AWP out on Mo. You don't have someone to counteract it. But they could have afforded it, so they've gone for the rifles. They've gone for this extra mobility. It was a conscious decision. Already, though, Crush and Chopper both springing to life, both picking up a frag apiece. Suddenly going to leave Gambit in a 3v5. And those are kind of two names we mentioned a lot, Crush and Chopper, largely because, you know, they've had such a turbulent time. Some performances have been amazing. Sometimes they've dropped off completely. Right now, being able to find their footing. Gucci, by the way, he's off to a good start. Yeah, he's
actually going to lose out a duel for once.
They finally, you know, they realize Gucci, he's not immortal. He can be quelled. And now 3 on 4 on the back of that frag from Hobbit. Doja sneaking out from Ivy. Gonna go toe-to-toe with Crush.
This is where he was able to find a fair few openings for Gambit versus North, but more of a passive hold for them, and instead it's going to be Crush to get the drop on him. 4v2. Bomb goes down at least, but don't think we're going to be expecting Chopper here as he swings around with Pop Dog. Finds both. The 7th round for Vega Squadron. Getting really into the thick of things here. And yeah, Chopper, as you said, been quiet so far, but finally chiming in with a 3K. That's definitely what you'd like to see from them. It's a bit of a technical pause coming in. We'll see what comes out of it. And yeah, not too surprisingly, given how this game has started out, the odds from Lootbet are going to favor Vega Squadron here.
Yeah, I mean, I did justifiably say it looked fantastic. And all that coming on the back of Hoochie on a side where, you know, normally if you have one guy kind of turning up, it's really, really hard to convert that into too much because it's quite difficult to keep him mobile, keep him, you know, where you're going to see those T players kind of, you know, trying to set the pace, trying to set the momentum. But he's done a great job of being positioned correctly. And now I think, scarily enough, you kind of have Chopper starting to step up alongside him, starting to come into his own. Someone who I think for the most part has been pretty underwhelming at this event. And usually he's someone that we look to within this Vega Squadron roster to really step up for them. So maybe all the pieces of the puzzle kind of falling into place at just the right time for Vega here on Train. You saw the guys on the desk mention how Gambit, if they're going to go for this, it's probably going to be a pretty, you know, they're going to have to grind it out. It's going to be a close victory. That was already the expectation, but I don't think anyone quite envisioned it being this one-sided off the bat.
Definitely didn't see that. And, you know, yesterday we got to see a pretty good T-side from Gambit in terms of just how they led up to things. They were focusing a lot more towards the inner bomb side at that point than what we've seen out of them so far. And we're also leaving Doja quite a bit alone with Ivy. This time it's just a completely different approach to it, and it's not working out really well. Mir does find the trade. That's a lot of damage as Doja swings around the bomb site. So they're going to get a bomb plant down here. This is the best position we've seen Gambit find themselves in quite some time. Crush. Woof. Struggles a little bit. Takes unnecessary damage, but still gets the kill at least.
Wasn't the most convincing of firefights, though. Here he is, regardless. We need to see that kill feed light up like a Paramore fan Spotify. Crush, crush, crush. But no, instead, JR going to go ahead and trade things back and forth. 2v2, and that kind of ticking down Mo. Ooh, peeking over the top of the train. Has found the first. It is just Tony Black left in the 1v2. Taps on the bomb. Oh, hops on now, the double peek into it, and they're playing this perfectly. They're not giving Tony Black any means of getting back in to this round. I think he even dies to the bomb thanks to that extra damage he takes. He's feeling good about that one, but it will be Gambit finally breaking the streak, finding themselves that first round.
5 in a row for Vega before this. But again, Gambit, they need consecutive rounds here. They can't afford to get reset. In terms of how the game stands, and also, of course, with the economy in mind. Here we go. Back into it again, up on Mo. And I mean, he's doing better for himself at the op. See earlier impact on his end than what we've seen in the first couple of games they've had. Usually taking about a half for him to get into it. JR. Well, peering into Black Waltz here with the off from higher. Able to catch someone out unless there's a Molotov coming out, and there we go. Mir throws that out. It's actually not going to be deep enough, though. Yeah, that's really poorly done by Gambit. There's really nothing more to it. It's not hard to throw that Molotov at all, and they still somehow managed to mess it up. Hobbit at least is going to get a free pass into Pop Dog, but you can see rotations having been made from Vega. They're happy to leave Tony Black as the sole defender of the inner bomb site. JR on his end has moved out in towards Yard. He's got Chopper right next to him as well.
Gambit rotating all the way back around. Now you have Hoochie here. Holding main, has Chopper to try and help him out. 30 seconds left. You can see a Dren throwing in a little bit of utility in towards this B bomb site just to try and keep these two players that currently reside here from rotating, and that now leaves the pressure on the rest of the pack. But Hoochie's dropped the bomb. It's down at his feet. There's only 20 seconds, so even if they deal with him, it's not going to be an easy task. They have to pick up the pace. Chopper's holding close, and there's the trade. The bomb drops again, and it's a Dren in a 1v3 with 10 seconds. There is just no time. Vega doing an absolutely phenomenal job of getting back on top of things. And, you know, I think quite critically as well, Vega doing a good job of, you know, I mentioned in that game, I think it was versus NRG, they actually had the majority of opening picks. And even, you know, you think back to the game yesterday versus Optic, right? It was a similar story with JR besting the likes of Config over and over again. But they struggled at actually converting those man advantages into a round. And that has not been the case here thus far on their CT side of Train. We see them finding the man advantages. We see them keeping things in their favor. Gambit, as well, not doing the best of jobs of trading these frags back. Dren saved that one AK, but that's kind of, you know, really destabilized this this economy over on the T side.
Yeah. All right, now though, I'm very surprised to see why Gambit are choosing such a completely different approach to how they go about their T side this time around compared to versus North. I mean, yeah, obviously two very different teams in how they approach the game, how they play the map in Vega and North, but you're not finding success with what you're doing now, so why not give it a go and actually trying out what found you success a lot of the times versus North? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. They're going to try for a boost here. Maybe able to bust the foot, but JR's too quick. All comes tumbling down for Gambit. Dren's doing his damnedest. Some kills and nearly gets the kill there, but Tony Black and Hoochie combined. There you have it. 9 rounds for Vega Squadron. This is looking very, very dangerous for Gambit at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this is always the thing, right? There might be no bad blood between Mir and the rest of the Vega guys, but at the same time, you know, these are always kind of the matchups where you're going to be trying, you know, that little bit harder, that little bit. I mean, obviously, it's an elimination game as well, right? There's a lot playing into this where Vega are going to be giving this their all. And Gambit, they seem to have fallen a little bit flat at a very, very critical juncture here. This, of course, is the team that's currently sitting 1 and 2, so the loss here means that you are gone. Dren left in a 1v4. Is he going to go and finish him off once again? Already on 19 frags, by the way. Top of the board for Vega Squadron, and he's having the absolute time of his life right now.
He's having the kind of game that we saw Dren have on the CT side yesterday versus North. The problem for Gambit is that nobody's having that game on their side. It's just been very bleak. I mean, for an update that came a couple of hours ago, more or less, right? Like, how much practice have they had with these Tech-9s? Has it really been worth it to change things up? Or is there a reason why you've opted to change the approach of your entire T side? Why are you putting so much more focus and manpower over towards Ivy? A lot of things I don't understand about what Gambit are doing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you recall, you know, whenever we have seen Gambit on Train thus far, it does always feel like the T side's been their strongest. You've said that a couple of times. You know, their CT side set up, kind of playing Mir down towards the Ivy position. Feels like sometimes he's
leaving
left
him
a bit
alone
high
a lot
and
of the
dry.
time.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, and you know, Vega kind of spoke to them the other night. They said they've realized, you know, maybe where some of the holes in this in this Gambit CT side are. They said they had a few tricks up their sleeve, and one of those was noticing that kind of liability down towards the Ivy position.
Well, the way it's going right now, they might not have to play all that much T side, so then don't really get
yeah,
to
all that homework might not even
it.
get rewarded, because I don't even think they anticipated quite a one-sided affair off of the bat.
That's the worst, you know? Put in all the work and teacher doesn't actually check if you've done your homework.
That actually is always the most tilting thing, by the way. Do you remember, like,
punishment?
Yeah.
And you never want to be the person who's like, but look what I did.
Yeah.
Because obviously then everyone's going to get screwed over. It's a rough life. It definitely is. And, well, it's pretty rough for Gambit, too. Galil's out to play. We haven't seen a single Krieg. We have seen them opt in for Tech-9s, but they've apparently not been sold on the Krieg.
Yeah, which just seems wild to me.
I would have figured it would have been the other way around. And, well, definitely didn't opt in for that as well. The surprise Tony Black attack. He comes aggressively in from upper. And, I mean, trades going back and forth. At least Gambit are finding something for this. Oh, he's going to get traded out, and all the chaos ends up in a Gambit route.
Yeah, and that's the important thing to realize. That, you know, no matter how one-sided the CT side has been, there's still the opportunity at 5-10 half, which, you know, I mean, most teams wouldn't feel too disappointed with. I think for the caveat that you are Gambit untrained, and usually your T side has looked better, that isn't going to be ideal, but that is definitely still a recoverable half, especially as we've seen the trend with this Gambit team have been these slow starts and then building into them in the second half. So they are not out of this one just yet. The only issue is you look at this buy, it's far from fantastic, and that reset is going to be looming, but the same can be said for Vega. So potential here, this round going to have massive implications because you're force buying into this next round if you lose it.
Right now, though. I mean, one of the things that is scary for Gambit as of right now is the fact that when they've gone towards inner to show any sort of presence, they've always put down Molotov towards higher. They've done the same kind of procedure every single time. When they stop doing that, that's, you know, a telltale sign for someone like Tony to actually, you know, push into black walls, into white walls, and further, which could be a bit of an issue for Gambit. JR's going to follow up with Frag onto Hobbit. Oh, quick to return, but Chopper and Crush combine. Bomb quite go down quite yet. Mir's going to find Tony Black rummaging around. Dren's testing his faith. Mir really getting into it now. Leaves it all on Chopper here. Average where he got a kill on earlier, but are they expecting this? Answer is no. Bomb down, 40 seconds left, and Mir, he does, luckily for his sake, have 100 HP. So, two former star players of the same team now going up against each other.
You think about this, yeah, exactly. Mir, formerly from Vega, now kind of been one of the weaker links in this Gambit roster. Chopper has been the man at the forefront of our minds, though, for Vega, and that is going to be him clutching it out versus his old teammate. It is going to be an 11th on the board for Vega, and critically so as well. He's able to go and save that ult before he grabs the defuse.
Just trying to get everything, seeing if there's any leftover nades as well. But, you know, no need to take any chances when you don't have a defuse kit. But yeah, definitely important round for Vega. You mentioned it. If they were to lose that one, it would have been eco. Chance for Gambit to close out this half, at least in an okay-ish fashion, all things considered. But instead, it's going to be an 11th round for Vega Squadron. A lot of questions about how Gambit have approached this T side. Again, same thing with the plant right there. You've known Chopper has gotten a frag from either if it was CT connector or backline rather recently in all of these trades. You're still planning open from an angle that Mir can't protect you from. It's just not ideal by any means. And again, main advantage going the way of Vega Squadron. JR getting in there early, but this time around, Adren's going to win up the duel versus Chopper. But here we go. No real precedence towards Tony Black initially, so he's feeling confident enough to push up aggressively. And that's something that's going to be in the back of the heads of Gambit the entire time now.
Yeah, they did spot him, tag him as well, so that's enough to send him back for the time being. He's now going to take a much more passive approach in towards that B-bomb site, but that is not where Gambit's heart lies. It's going to be over here towards Ivy. Crush, maybe overextending a little bit there, has given away the man advantage. There's now a weapon that can be retrieved as well. Hobbit still over here at B, trying to keep the attention of Tony Black firmly fixated on this position for the time being. Now down towards Popdog he goes. JR does have the Molotov, or Incendiary rather, to drop at his feet if players start to come his way. Mo gets caught on out, and now he drops the Incendiary. That's going to leave about... Doja over the top of the incandescence there on that Incendiary. Hoochie now the only man inside of A. Rotation Tony, but he gets caught looking the wrong way, and Tony Black left in a 1v3. He's had a pretty quiet performance thus far, but we've seen that he can step up for this squad. 1v3 with the new SMG is asking a lot of this man, though. Smoke's still there, and Doja holding close. Tony has to check this, and he might spot the barrel. Doja a little bit too big for his own good there, but it's going to be a 4th round for Gambit.
And a thumbs up from the body on the T side. So they do get a 4th at least. That leaves a little bit of a cushion, even if they were to lose the pistol round. But my word, they've really created a bit of a crater for themselves. Again, and you know, a lot of that round comes down to just straight up fortune for Gambit in order to win it. I mean, Hoochie looking away at the very wrong time, you know, just the wrong moment, I guess, right moment if you're Gambit, to go down to Hobbit. Obviously, JR peeking into that Molotov, and I'm not sure what he was hoping to get out of that, but Doja landing a perfect shot to be able to punish him. It's a little bit of luck and a couple of unforced errors on the side of Vega that allows for Gambit to get that 4th. But either way, they do have a pretty significant lead to work with here going into the second half.
If you're Gambit right now, you're looking towards your Adrens, towards your Moes, your Hobbits to start to step on up and get you back into this. Because right now, you know, it's really kind of been Mir bringing up the front of this squad. It feels like not normally the name that we see at the forefront. Him and Mo. Mo's been very, very good in these pistol rounds as well. So push coming on in down towards Ivy. Mo holding close to the smoke. Not quite able to find anything this time around. He does lose Mir as well. So now they duck down in through CT spawn. There's Tony Black in with his 2nd of the round. They're going to go running into Doja, who has to hold his own here in CT. He's going to get bested, leaving all the pressure on to Mo. 1v3, and Hoochie's heard him on the ladder. There should be no way back into this round. Oh, that's not convincing. That's not convincing in the slightest. Mo, given an opportunity, given the 1v2. The timer ticking on down, now working against the lone man for Gambit. They should just double peek into this, but they've given him the one-on-one. He's going to try and chase it down, but into the waiting moors of Crush he walks. And that's going to be Vega picking up the pistol here in this second half.
Dream scenario for Vega Squadron, and you mentioned it, you know, when you talked to the Vega Squadron guys, they had noticed a couple of holes in the defense of Gambit, predominantly around that Ivy area where Mir usually is held up, and that's where they go right away. Find success as well. Gambit not opting to go away from the Z-sets, at least on the CT side. Makes me question why they had Tech Knights on the T side even more. I tried for boost here, but I was about to say Hoochie's in a prime position to deal with this, but he gets taken out immediately by Mir. So great start for Gambit. Are they going to continue with the aggression here towards center? Tony is in a good spot to deal with this as well. They're going to try their luck a second time around. This time not going to be as beneficial. That's when they decide to bail out. Hobbit's still lurking about in that ladder. So JR's taking a bit of damage. That means that the scout on Doja's end is going to be that much more lethal. Just in general, getting tag damage with that scout could be the difference maker.
There's Adren toppled by Crush on the entry. 45 seconds left, running into Hobbit. He does manage 2 kills. 2 kills that really he had no business getting away with. And
a bit of team damage.
JR and Crush still left up. Doja and Mo left to try and contend with this bomb. Going to go down, and it will be planted for Popdog.
Bomb has been planted.
Doja wrapping on round to the Ivy position for Gambit. There's still a chance in this round with both these players now being tagged. Thanks to that tiny bit of team damage that was done by JR onto Crush. They're both within the one-shot range of that scout that's up on Doja. Something to bear in mind. Mo has their attention. It's not something I think he would ever want to get again after he gets picked up. So that's now a 13th round on the board for Vega. Gambit back to the drawing board. Just going to have to take an eco in this round. So you will be handing over a 14th to Vega before you get your buy. Unless something goes really, 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 really wrong.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it happen before. Could happen again. But for right now, Vega Squadron seems to be in full control of this match. And we have to keep in mind, I mean, if you lose here, you're out. After we saw a bit of a resurgent Gambit in New York, we had higher expectations going into this. And I mean, they were doing so well versus North for the longest part. They could have very easily been sitting in a 2-1 matchup instead of a 1-2. Now, facing the danger of actually getting eliminated early on.
And now just setting up for this B-bomb site. Vega, the perfect choices they're about to find out. They will get this site for free. Gambit going to start to rotate all their players on round now, but with just the vanilla pistols at range, there should be nothing to be done. It will be a 14th for Vega Squadron here. Maybe they send some of these SMG players hunting, but they don't have to risk it. They don't have to risk giving anything up in this scenario now, as they stand just one round away from match. An elimination game point. So a chance to go ahead and send Gambit home.
Not the worst I would have expected after seeing how they've done for themselves leading into this. Even in their losses, they haven't been completely out of it. I mean, we've seen Fragsters go through to qualify. We've seen them obviously do well to win their first match, barely losing to North as well. There we have it, 14 rounds for Vegas. Enough for an off on the side of Mo as well. Even if he does go down, not going to have any armor, though, if he opts to buy that. And the odds, surprisingly, still pretty close. I mean, at this point, I would be hard-pressed to side with Gambit, to put it that way.
I mean, you know, the mad respect to the Gambit bettors, still have a lot of faith in these guys. Like, you know, clearly more than your average person. They believe in the comeback. Let's see. Will that happen? Those odds provided by Luke, obviously. But JR
hasn't spotted the Shadow 1 Hobbit yet, so he might be in for a bit of an awkward surprise. Instead, it's going to be Hobbit to run into his death, and early opening once more for Vega. They're doing such a good job of getting opening duels. This time around, they're just capitalizing on it. JR is actually yet to lose out an opening duel.
And that's what he has been so good at, JR, in these opening fights. He's the man that's always finding, creating that space, creating these openers. Even if you think back to their game just yesterday versus Optic. Bested Config, I think it was 6 times before Config was able to go ahead and take one up against him, which is quite the record to have, quite the man to nullify. And I mean, this round is no exception. Hobbit is one mighty scalp to take from this Gambit side. Now Vegas setting up for the A-play. It's Adren, Mir, and Mo to try and defend this portion of the map. They do manage to find Crush, and now one man with the bomb on his back out from main. That's a shot for Mir, going to get pressure, but Adren still playing around the electricity box. Mo going to be chiming in for one more, and it will be the round going the way of Gambit, reasonably convincingly at that. And I mean, this trade not quite leaving the platform just yet. Speaking of platforms, it's going to be a quick shout out to NVIDIA as well, the graphics platform of StarLadder. There we go. Really had to try and cut that one on the fly, Halvor, but I hope it was good enough for you.
Got it done. Absolutely. Don't really go anywhere without seeing an NVIDIA graphics card in these tournament PCs. For good reason as well. Vega, though, they're not looking for a graphics card. They're looking for rounds. They need 2 more of them. Still have the weaponry to do so. Nice buy coming in on their end. Gambit a little bit more labored. As you can see, Mir down to UMP. Pretty much no utility as well. Hobbit finally going to get the better of an opening duel here. So that's Hoochie down. So tucked away into top corner. Doesn't feel safe escaping just yet. That allows for Crush to actually go out and find 2 kills. That's Adren and Mo down. Hobbit does respond with the second one onto Tony Black, but his position is known. We'll see if Vega actually forgets about him. Doesn't seem like it, but JR is not able to connect the shot. Hobbit seemingly has to do everything here. Doja does find Crush, but it's not easy for Gambit here by any means. And Hobbit able to do that much damage from such a limited position as well. Really well done on his end.
You know, it does worry me though, Halvor. Having some flashbacks to the last time we saw these guys meet. That was at the ROG Masters. This is something that kind of spoke to the guys a bit about last night and how they. It was a, you know, I think they met in like the semis. I don't really remember, but you know, they ended up picking up the first map very, very convincingly. Second map though was a much different story. It was very, very back and forth. And Vega, they were in the lead. They were almost closing it out, and then Gambit began this comeback, and it really did get in the Vega guys' heads. And you know, maybe there's still room for that to happen now.
Luckily for them, it's only best of 1 to be played, so even if it does get close, as long as they manage to close it out, it would be mission accomplished. Seems like the bomb wants to go towards inner. Doja runs into a couple of angry Vega Squadron players, but it's Hobby who's going to draw first blood. He finds Tony Black once again. Jared's actually made his way quite a bit out into Yard here. He's got a Tech 9 as well, so he's also believing in the hype. His window of opportunity is closing, though, as we see Mir already made his way towards backline. Hobbit's also gotten into a more passive position, so he needs to actually expose himself a little bit to some danger if he wants to find some success. Gambit's initial rotation towards inner is going to wear out, as we see moving back into connector. And ooh, there we go. That's a nicely planted shot from JR.
Yeah, he's going to continue pushing on in. This new Tech 9 will get silenced by the M4 of Adren, but he's been tagged up, finishes off another, so this round is looking like it's going to be going the way of Gambit. They find themselves the 7th here unless something ridiculous happens. And
that guy's seen some things.
And he certainly has. You know, maybe he's witnessing the choke of the century. Who knows? As we currently sit 7-14, Gambit slowly but surely hauling their way back into this one. For Vega. Looking like a pause might it be called. No, it's going to be just running with it into this round. They're just going for the pistol, taking the eco. You can get a buy up in the next. You are going to be giving Gambit an 8th, at which point you take into account that this was what, a 14-4 score at one point in time. It's a pretty worrying prospect if you start to consider that, you know, the last, what, 3 rounds in a row going the way of Gambit, potentially, and you imagine it should be a 4th here. They do spot out Doja.
Takes a hit to the body, but still remains somewhat safe. Hobbit. Sees a couple of toes in Pop. That's going to prompt him to drop the smoke. Vega having no interest of committing either towards the inner bomb site or towards Pop Dog. Instead, it's going to be Chopper to make another move on the opposite side of the map. And Crush. All right, he finds Hobbit as he's made his way out. Mir, is he aware? He is now. Quick execution. Forward movement as well, but there has been a weapon picked up on the side of Tony Black. Doja is still the sole defender, and he's got a UMP, and playing that far back with a UMP, I mean, you are pretty much giving up the bomb site here. He doesn't have the utility to prevent a bomb plant either. So that is a pretty clear indication of Gambit being content with more or less just setting up for a retake. Actually, he's going to move forward now. Does so at the right timing as well. That's the bomb drop. Gets the second one onto Tony Black as well. That armorless target is so beneficial when you have that UMP. And, well, it was looking a little bit dicey with how Gambit were positioned initially, but Doja gets into the right spot at the right time to make it work. So 14-8. Gambit making a more respectable result out of it, at least for now. And, well, yeah, now we're starting to see the updated odds here, really, for that more appropriately reflects what we're looking at. And Doja's not going to upgrade from that UMP. It's that Vega. Really quick out into yard here. They've already seen Hobbit tucked between the bomb train.
Yeah, this is very, very fast from JR. He's going to get shut down, though, and there's the Dread pushing on through. He does answer back. Straight away in with that reply. Doja with that one UMP down here towards me, playing the anchor role. This is going to be a massive fight that affects this round in such a big way. If Doja goes down, that B-bomb site is left wide open. He has to try and hold his own, and Doja does not. These rotations now coming in. The smoke going to rain on through, but it's somewhat missed its mark here. Hobbit going to go ahead and find that equalizer, find the 3-on-3 for Gambit before the bomb even goes down, but it's Tony Black continuing this reign of terror. Will get traded, and Hobbit, he's going to be stepping up to the plate now. Chopper left in a 1v2. Time on his side, but that's about the only thing he has going his way.
Gambit clearly has no idea where he is as well. You can see Hobbit clearing out connector, making sure there's not going to be any backstabs. He's still really worried about this. Don't have any smokes, but the second he looks towards the lower ramp, he's going to find the man he's looking for, and that allows Mir to get the defuse in. So 9 rounds, and that's a 5th in a row for Gambit. And you talked about these skeletons in the closet of Vega. Might be coming out for a little spooky visit here if they don't get a grip of the situation. And I mean, right now, yeah, they're getting bomb plant. They have the loss bonus going for them as well. So it's not going to be far between, you know, every purchase, depending on whether or not they want an AWP in the hands of JR or not. But it's not a comfortable situation to be in by any means. I mean, we talked about Hoochie as well. He had an excellent first half, much like a Dren yesterday, but he's also petered out a little bit. Instead, it's Hobbit to really come alive and shine here for Gambit in the later rounds.
Yeah, for Vega, maybe feeling like they're running a bit into that brick wall now, like this T-side can sometimes start to feel like here on Train, especially, you know, as each one of these rounds starts to get away Gambit more and more. If you're Vega, you're going to be in your own heads, you're going to be worrying, you're going to be thinking back to, you know, the stories that I heard them recount firsthand, and that is, you know, that of the comeback from Gambit in a different series, but it's never nice to have such a strong lead and then have it stripped away from you. Here's Hoochie, faster attempt in through Pop once again, and he does get straight down there, but instantly traded. Yeah, triple up, why not? You know, the Org's viable again, the SG is, the Tech-9's come out, what's going on? You know, what is CSGO anymore? Here's Crush over towards Olaf, holding his ground. The one thing is, 3 AWPs is, well, it's great to kind of throw in as like a bit of a surprise, but
it's a bit of a gimmick, but seemingly working out as of right now. Question is if what happens when Vega potentially gets onto a bomb site, if they can do that. It's a 2v4, but all they need is that one missed shot to get a massive opportunity. Crush. Tries like, ooh, doesn't find Mir immediately. Will eventually get it, but takes a little bit more time than he probably would have liked. Doja doesn't rotate off either. Soldiers holding the lane. JR just needs to make that jump. Oh, might find the timing as well. Crush finally goes down. So the second the bomb plant is in, they're going to know where he is, but JR's playing the smart. He does have some extra time to work with here, so he's looking to find that inner bomb defender. That's going to be Doja. It's going to alleviate a lot of pressure if he can find him in time. Probably heard some movement around the connector area. Doja is in for a rude awakening here. Well, that at least gets the scent of JR on the noses of Gambit. They're going to know where he's at. Bomb goes down as well. Now they need to group up and not get isolated too much. Adren down to 9 HP. Here's the issue with these ops. JR does it. I mean, you wouldn't imagine him having a big chance in that kind of a scenario. 1v3. I mean, there are 3 ops in play initially, but boy, oh boy, Gambit could have played that a lot better. Even after, I mean, Doja, I mean, that's, you know, bad stroke of luck, really, on his end, the fact that JR sneaks by at the wrong time. But for Mo and Adren, you'd expect them to play a little bit more together. Adren not to go down to the point where he's on so low HP that he can't really help Mo build any pressure onto JR. They can't pincer him as easily. And it just all unravels. That should have been the 10th round for Gambit. Not taking Vega to map point, but that's where we find ourselves. Hobbit, forward position with an MP9. Ooh, she's quick on the trigger. Still Doja. go. 2 men back in the favor of Gambit here. JR is going to equalize that. They'll find a Dren. That was the 2 players on the side of Gambit that didn't really have any weaponry. Mir's still lurking about. He's seen the shadow here of Crush on Blue Train. He'll be able to net the kill as well. Doesn't have the ability to follow up on JR though, but Mo's still alive with the op. Glass is still intact though, so needs to hit a pretty clean shot here to actually down JR.
Yeah, JR, he was the man obviously in that previous round. He carries them through. This time he's got a chopper with him, and these 2 have looked fantastic today. JR just so consistently able to create space, find these openings, find ways to exploit the Gambit defense. This time around, he's backed away for the time being, up into the showers right now. Gonna have Chopper now to try and join him. But Doja and Mo, they've gambled that it's going to be this A bomb site. So with 20 seconds left, maybe we see them start to switch that up soon. They're going to be playing this in a 2-on-2 in this retake. Chopper's been allowed to arm himself as well. There isn't a smoke, so Vega can't afford to take their time because these peeks from Connector can be devastating. JR going to go ahead and home his sights in. That Molotov delays the push that much longer. Bomb goes down, and it all comes down to these next few frags. If Gambit want to stay in this event that much longer, the loser of this will be going home. And Chopper inside of the bomb site is going to get toppled at the hands of Doja. JR, once again, he's been so good in these clutch scenarios for Vega Squadron. He's looking to do it once more. Tags up Doja, and he's going to finish it. Vega, they will be sending Gambit home, and they're going to stay afloat. They're going to move into that 2-2 bracket now with a chance of making it through to the playoffs here. And that there is going to be... that's just a feel-good feeling all round. It's pretty clean as well for the most part on their behalf. It gets a little bit closer in that second half than perhaps we would have liked. But a 16-9 victory here versus Gambit on Trade as they rise up. And not only do they beat a team that they know very well, but then they beat their ex-teammate in the form of Mir, which is always going to feel a bit bittersweet. Now they're sending him home. There was a lot of love between these 2 teams. For Vega, they've got their eyes on the prize. They want to try and secure that playoff spot.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, it might be a little bit bittersweet to send your former teammate home, but it also has to feel a little bit extra good as well, knowing that, well, you can kind of feel like, well, you kind of made the wrong choice leaving us, even though it was, mutual on both parts. But there we have it. Yeah, I think, as well as Vega played, and, we got to give a lot of credit to Hoochie initially for setting him off on the right path to have such a strong CT side, and JR for closing it out. I think Gambit made a ton of mistakes on their T side. I have no explanation for why they played it so wildly different from what they did versus North yesterday, why they're changing out weapons that they have had no idea to actually just test out properly in terms of, seeing how they function with the new updates. I couldn't make sense of it. And that surprises me coming from a team that has Blade as a coach, because he's always been kind of the guy who follows the tried and true for as long as possible. Yeah, I mean, it feels like, with Gambit, they were the favorites there, yet they were the ones altering their play styles the most, right? And it kind of let Vega run a bit of amok and do whatever it was that they wanted. So fantastic stuff from those guys. We're going to go ahead and throw this to an interview with them now over on the show floor.
I'm here with Crush, a very happy bunny chat, a bunny. And congratulations, you've just sent Gambit home. The more experienced team, last time Vega faced them, you guys lost, but now you have sent them packing. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels great. It doesn't matter like who you won, but it feels great to win, and we need one more game to advance to playoffs, so that's the main goal, I guess.
You seemed so confident at the start of that, but then Gambit did start to gain on you. What mistakes were made?
Like we made some small mistakes, and it cost us. Like we had bad economy, and I guess that's all. We won some 2 crucial rounds, clutch rounds, and they won the game.
Do you think you can fix those mistakes in time for your next game? Because you do need to play one more to win and get through to the playoffs.
Yeah, but I think that kind of mistakes were because someone was maybe not 100% focused on something. He was maybe thinking about something, I don't know.
What was he thinking about, do you think?
I have no idea. Like I was in one of them, so I don't know. I was trying to make something better. It didn't work.
Okay. Maybe get the boys eyes on the prize, on the game. Talk them through that $300,000 prize pool that's up for grabs if they get through to the playoffs. That's the way to get their heads back in the game. Now, the draw is coming up shortly, so we don't know who you're playing next, but the teams are Hellraisers, North, Mouse, Big, and Imperial. And because you haven't played any of those teams yet, who would you like to draw?
I don't know, it actually doesn't matter. Like, if we want to advance to playoffs and show something, we need to win every team.
Okay, well, good luck, Crush. We'll see you playing later this evening. Go and get ready with your team. Thank you. As you heard it, guys, there are 6 more teams fighting out for those final places in the playoffs starting this Friday. So let's head back to desk to see what our analysts think.
Vega proved far too strong for Gambit that time around, and maybe a bit of a little shock factor coming in there. Hutchie playing very well, JR coming into form as well. But the main story is kind of Adren. We spoke about him, obviously, how well he did yesterday against North. He completely disappeared again, like, just isn't able to be consistent with it.
I think this has to be now for Gambit. Get rid of Hobbit. Like, he's already on the way out. He's got 1 foot out the door. No disrespect to him as a player or anything like that, but now the team has to kind of retool and decide how they want to go forward. In the context of this game, I didn't think they would have so much time finding opening kills. I kind of likened the way that they would take map control and then squeeze as something that we used to see from VP years ago, right, where they would actually be able to punish the CTs. And I look at Vega as a team who overextends, but they were doing all the punishing. Vega was getting a lot of opening kills in that first half, and then to execute in 4v5 situations from the T side, never easy, right? That's never something that's going to happen most days of the week, especially on a map like Train, right?
Yeah.
So that has to be one of the massive win conditions. And JR, like you mentioned it in the pregame, JR and Hutchie have been having a good tournament, and they're continuing through now when they needed to. So yeah, good props to Vega.
If you think about it, though, it makes perfect sense that Gambit got so few T rounds by the fact that Adren was generally quite poor in this game, because whenever I think of Gambit on this map, Adren is exactly one of the players who had a really good feel for like when to entry. They go very, very slow. They play off like someone takes this area, then we smoke another area, then we isolate the site, then we go in late and we plant the bomb. We can't do any of that again if you're getting killed immediately at the beginning of the round, if you're always in a man number advantage down, because at that point in time, especially a team like Vega, they can stack a site, they can start rotating, so you've got pressure. Gambit's a team that's always liked that slow-paced style, and I thought that was going to be a great counter to Vega, but you have to actually get on the CT side to make like that actually be able to work. You can't be getting 5 rounds or whatever it was on the T side. That's not going to be good enough. So, like, this is one of the rare games I've ever seen where I don't really think there was ever any chances in this game for Gambit. Like, it was pretty open and shot every single time. Vega looked like they were in control. All of their players seemed to be doing pretty well. You know, there wasn't really like a clear weak spot of somewhere you could attack. Normally, this is a Gambit style of game. You know, you like a little bit of slow pace, 3v3s, get a bomb down. There's nothing going on here.
They found most of their success when it was a little bit more chaotic, right? We had that one round that felt it was just over in a blink of an eye. So many kills just funneled towards that outer bomb site. I think that the good thing with Vega is...
Like, this makes you think if they've had a few more CT rounds, we could have had a game here.
Well, yeah, there was. Look, it didn't feel like it was done and dusted, right? You could see after that clutch round that came in, we could hear the yell from the desk, right? The Gambit was still feeling it. They didn't think that they completely lost. Most teams, especially ones with experienced players, tend to be quite deflated and have to just grind back, and then when it gets to the precipice of like 14-14 or something, then you hear them getting fired up. But that is a massive clutch that we just saw right there from JR, a situation where, you know, they would have lost another round, the money would have been in another precarious position, and that is exactly what Duncan's talking about. The fact that, you know, they were able to get it back like this without winning either pistol. This could have been a different game, but I think when JR had, I think it was 5 opening kills, 3 of which came on that CT side. So, it's right there on the screen. So,
you are correct.
Yeah, funny that. So yeah, I think that he had a lot of impact. Obviously, with all those kills, the AWP is obviously very pivotal. It's just basic Train stuff. It wasn't a game. This isn't a game where we saw like any crazy strategies or anything, right?
It wasn't the classic Vega Squadron upset, basically. In fact, even the players, like, it's almost like they shuffled. It was the other players that were at the top of the scoreboard this time.
Seeing Crush playing well is quite good to see. Obviously, one of the newer boys on the team. So, going forward, we are going to be doing the draw, I assume, very soon for the 2-2 matches.
Yeah,
that's where it's going to get really interesting, because there are a lot of cool matches with Hellraisers, Mousesports, North, Imperial, and Big on the board. Going to be some interesting games, I think. We saw some of obviously, we saw Big at the major. We saw Hellraisers go top 8 at the major. Mousesports bombed out. We saw Vega up and down. So I thought that this event, because it is a lot of teams, it's redemption for most of these squads, right? Or like a chance to prove that, oh, we did struggle at the major, but now we're looking better, or we didn't get a chance to show everything on our best maps, or we just had an off day. It's been very up and down. Like these teams here, these 6 teams that we have left, are the ones that or most of which I would have expected to go through relatively easy to this top 8, and they're going to have to do it the hard way.
Now, one of the things I wanted to look at as well is just, if Vega do make it to the playoffs, right, what do we expect from them in the best of 3 scenario? Do you think they can continue this?
The map pool has been the problem. We did see that for Complexity at the major.
Yep.
Hellraiser a little bit, yeah. But this is more of an even field. There is no Na'Vi here. There is no Liquid here. There is no Astralis here. So in a best of 3, this is the type of tournament where I think it goes back to normality, where we see like, Vega win their map pick, for example, and let's say that they play Renegades. Renegades win their map pick, and then we go on to map 3. Whereas when we're dealing with the top tier teams, because of the preparation, it seems to be a bit more of a flip-flop.
I would say this is an example of a tournament where that draw is going to decide everything. Yeah. Because if you get the right opponent who's going to play you on a middle map, you've got a chance to win the series. There's a number of teams Vega could run into where it's game over already in the Veto. Like, you're going to be playing uphill the whole way.
If we just make a quick note with this on the screen, ENCE and NRG have to play teams who come through as a 3-2, right? So the thing is, they could be playing a Mousesport straight off the bat. They could be playing North, Big, Hellraisers, Imperial. Yeah. Like, the only name that I'm not scared of for ENCE or NRG in a best of 3, because I think they have deep map pools, would be Vega, who seems very shallow to me.
Yep.
But Hellraisers can play a wide bunch of maps. Mousesports can do the same. Imperial are scary just because of those individuals. North have shown willingness to play a lot of maps. Obviously, still proving ground with the addition of Cadian. So it's actually going to be difficult in those opening games for ENCE and NRG, and we have seen ENCE crumble before when the pressure kicks in. They're still learning how to deal with that. They're still coming to.
That's why this is reminiscent of the last one, the Season 5 one, where it was AGO did amazing in the Swiss system.
Yep.
Ran straight into North, who always had a solid map pool, who had a grind out style, and they just beat them in basically kind of like an ugly game of Counter-Strike. So
Big versus Mouse.
Immediately, we've got one where, like, on the one hand, you look at that, and in this isolated scenario, it feels unfair for Big.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to beat Mousesports to get into the playoffs. But first of all, it's a best of 1, so you got a shot at it.
Yep.
Secondly, if you do beat them, that's a team that you might have had to face in a best of 3 later. You want to eliminate them now if you can. And then thirdly, you're only in this position, to be fair, because you did lose to some lesser teams that weren't the big names. Like in some of those first 2 games, you weren't playing the massive names in the tournament, so you kind of put yourself in this position. If anything, I think the one that's the most interesting one is the Vega Hellraisers one, because that one is wild. I don't know where that goes.
Yeah, especially considering how flat on form a lot of the Hellraisers players have been looking. Obviously today versus Cyberzen, that was versus Cyberzen. That was basically like a stat padding game, right? That was just, everyone going in against Cyberzen was treating, or I would have been treating it anyway, like it was just a warm up. You don't have to get out of,
right?
Yeah, you don't have to get out of 3rd or 4th gear. Look, for me, I think the Imperial versus North game could actually be straight fire. And I say that because North players are doing a lot better when they're allowed to have room. And Cadian's style of calling allows Kjaerbye and AZ, or at least seemingly, and from my opinion, to be more activated within the game, right? They probably shouldn't have lost to Fragsters earlier, and I think the map choice was, or the veto was definitely questionable. I think that Imperial versus North game, considering like Esperanto, all those kind of boys, like, they're not scared. No. They don't care, right?
They don't matter who they play. They just be like going straight in.
So that, I think that one there is going to be that's going to be a big one.
Well, we've got some interesting matchups across the board. Now, just kind of giving us this first one we're going to see in Big versus Mousesports. The only chance they've really got, are you thinking on the best of 1 front, or is it if Mousesports don't perform up to standard again? Because they slowed down a bit.
Frustrated. I know they're tilted. I know Mouse are tilted, but Bigger on the come up. I don't know. I guess it's going to have to think through the veto right now. We could probably try and work it out. We know that it won't be Mirage.
Both teams have reasonably wide pools.
It won't be Mirage.
No, but you think about it, they both like a bit of Dust too.
Yeah.
Definitely willing to play cash if necessary.
Yeah.
Going to avoid Overpass, obviously. Overpass and Mirage are the 2 we're chucking out
Mirage
there.
Are gone, yeah.
So then Train, actually both teams reasonably like. Not their favourites, usually sort of like 3rd for each of them, I'd say. Nuke is one where actually that goes to Mousesports, even though they don't play it that much. Big doesn't like it that much, so probably going to get vetoed in that setting. So I think actually Mousesports, bizarrely, might have a slight edge on the veto there, but then again, rhythm and the way they play the game probably goes to Big, better structure, but firepower definitely on the Mousesports side.
I think that one of the biggest strengths of Big is how well Godby can be prepared for a matchup, like how he can go in, and he doesn't have a lot of time now because they start within 25 minutes, right?
That's crazy.
So this is getting thrown straight into it. So it needs to be a map where they can just have a game plan and just go with that. You don't need to look too much at what Mousesports do.
I think the ideal would be Dust 2. I think if you just agreed to play that.
If Mouse let it go Dust 2, I think that'd be like that for me.
Scary.
Still at the moment with it finding itself out in the meta.
Yeah,
it's almost like a coin toss to allow that one through because of how much of a range of results we've seen. We have seen like big with different games. There's been big blowouts. There's been close games. There's been games that are upsets. It hasn't really established itself yet. So if I was Mouse, I'd probably be banning Overpass. Obviously, I'd probably get rid of Dust 2.
I think Inferno's got to be one they've got to consider banning. They haven't been very good on it.
They've been quite weird. Well, yeah. During
the problem
Pro League,
is this:
it was a little bit better.
Each team has a map that they basically probably should ban, but in doing so, you potentially edge the veto to the other team. So if I'm actually the big guys, I think you've got to ban Nukatch. You haven't looked good on that map, but if you do it, you give the choice to them. But then if they ban Inferno, we're getting back to a middle scenario. That's why I feel like if both teams ban correctly, it's Dust 2 or Train.
I think Mouse would be very happy with Train. I think Mousesports would probably liken the fact to play Train, especially with Chris J. Oscar. I know that the form hasn't been fantastic. I know they lost earlier in the day, but I think if you look at pound for pound, obviously we're going to say Mouse have more firepower, right? There's no doubting that. And I think it's easier to isolate players on Train. If you wanted to punish, the inside bomb site against Big, you could do that. Like they have good rotations, they have good communication, but if you just wanted to send someone in to bully a player and not have to have too much structure, Train is a map where they can maybe do that. But if they get shut out, Mouse won't have the same level of executes. They're all about getting the opening and then clutching within the mid rounds, right? That's kind of one of the things that are in their wheelhouse. So, it's going to be an interesting one. I want to sit there and have a bit more of a think about it.
Well, while people have got some time as well, they can go to CS Money and open some cases, grab yourself some new skins as well, if that's what you want to do. And you can obviously head on to CS Money across the board and enjoy that. I think we've got a little bit more time to continue the flow
we're still
of
going?
things here. Yeah, we are for the moment.
All right, are we just down there?
No, it just tells me we can go on break. There we go. We get told afterwards, so we can go on break. We can end it here, but we will be back very shortly. We'll be coming back with Big taking on Mousesports as our opening game, and we'll go into further detail on exactly how we think that's going to go.
Lootbet. Did you know that when you make a trade on CS Money website, there is much more going on than meets the eye? The adventure begins here. And that's how trades are done on CS Money. With Hellcase multi-cases, you're no longer restricted by random case opening mechanisms. Now, you are able to pick any of the cells containing skins and actually determine what you win. Use the promo code and dive right in.
shit like a wrecking